Hi, I'm the Guitar Trooper, YouTube's favorite old guy. And this is Remember When.
This is the dawning of
Remember the day Apollo 11 landed on the moon?
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, 20.
Sure, just about everyone born before 1960 remembers that. But how about the stuff that was on the radio on that day? Remember any of that? Let me help you out. Here are the top 10 songs on the Billboard Hot 100 from the week ending July 19th, 1969. The background of 10 songs that you would be likely to have heard on AM radio in the U.S. on July 20th, 1969. And keep in mind, these aren't my picks. They are literally from the Billboard Hot 100 week ending July 19th, 1969. Number 10, Love Theme from Romeo and Juliet, Henry Mancini and his orchestra. Released May 1969. This composition by Nino Rota from Franco Zeffirelli's film of Romeo and Juliet, arranged by Henry Mancini, had been number 1 back on June 28th, and it was still hanging on at number 10 on July 19th. This was the only song by Henry Mancini that became a number 1 on this chart ever, and he actually played the piano on the recording. What is truly remarkable is that this ultra-mellow classical vibe song was competing with songs from groups like the Beatles, Creedence Clearwater, and the Stones.
Hey, turn that noise down! Hold it, never mind. Put the noise back on.
And there were plenty of AM program directors that resisted putting this sleepy instrumental on their station's rotation list because, well, duh. But much to their surprise, it pushed the Beatles' Get Back out of the number 1 spot starting in June. Perhaps not surprisingly, it also topped the easy listening chart, but what is surprising about that is that it's the only number 1 that Mancini ever charted there as well. And just so you'll know, session drummer Hal Blaine also played on this recording, which proves, if nothing else, his great versatility was intact. Number 9, My Cherie Amour, Stevie Wonder. Released January 28th, 1969. By 1969, Stevie Wonder was beginning to gather momentum, and this entry delivered on his songwriting, musicianship, and voice skills. The song started out in 1966, written about a girlfriend named Marsha at the Michigan School for the Blind, and it was called Oh My Marsha. The French motif title came about from later collaboration with professional songwriters Henry Cosby and Sylvia May. The instrumental background was recorded at the Hitsville, USA studio on November 8, 1967, with additional horn and string overdub tracks on November 17th at nearby Golden World Record Studio. Finally, Stevie's vocal was added on January 15, 1968. The master tape was then shelved for a year, waiting for a suitable opportunity for release. The initial release ended up being on January 28, 1969 as the B-side of the barely in the top 40, I Don't Know Why. But DJs began playing My Cherie more often than the A-side, so in April, with the I Don't Know Why single falling off the chart, and with nothing to lose, Tamla Records re-released My Cherie Amour as an A-side. On July 19th at number 9, it was on the rise and would peak at number 4 in August. Number 8, The Ballad of John and Yoko, The Beatles. Released May 30th, 1969 in the UK and June 4th, 1969 in the US. Well, first off, to be perfectly accurate, this wasn't really the Beatles. It was a one-day, single-session, multi-track project by only 2 of them, John Lennon and Paul McCartney, who, between them, played all of the instrument tracks and sang all of the vocals. This situation came about because both Ringo and George were otherwise occupied, and John felt that he wanted to get it recorded as soon as possible. John, already in hot water with some markets due to his unfortunate quip comparing the Beatles' popularity and that of Christianity, was on edge about this release, admonishing the Beatles' publicist Tony Bramwell to not publish any of the usual pre-release material until after the single was pressed, or, quote, "you'll frighten people," unquote. Sure enough, after release, some radio stations refused to play it, even though it was a top 10 hit. Others played it anyway, simply blanking out the word Christ. No matter what, it was an unqualified international hit, making the top 10 on 17 international charts and being number 1 on 9 of those. Not bad for a single day's work for a couple of guys in the studio. An interesting tidbit about this single is that it is the first one published in stereo under the Beatles banner, and so was never mixed in mono. Number 7. Color Him Father, The Winstons. Released May 1969. This number 2 R&B chart crossover was the debut single for the multiracial Washington, D.C. area soul and funk band, the Winstons, and it made a steady trip to the number 7 slot on the Hot 100 on July 20th. And although it sold over 1 million copies, it only went this high in the U.S. The single release in Australia peaked at number 80. A surprising sidelight concerns the B-side of this record, a funk arrangement of the gospel tune Amen Brother, and it became known for what was called the Amen Break, a short drum solo that appears halfway through the song. This short break became in later years one of the most sampled drum loops in recording history, appearing in thousands of tracks since its release. Number 6. 1. Three Dog Night, released April of 1969. Three Dog Night, who obtained all of their songs from third-party writers, got this one from Harry Nilsson, who had hits on his own with Everybody's Talkin', and Without You. He was inspired to write one from the rhythm of a telephone busy signal that he kept hearing while trying to complete a phone call. The beep, beep, beep of the engaged telephone line caught his attention, and the singer-songwriter incorporated a similar sound into the opening piano chords of his song. Surprisingly, there was apparently no other influence, romantic or otherwise, for the lyrics. Three Dog Night released one as the second single from their first album, and it became the group's first gold record. All 3 vocalists in that group were capable of singing lead vocals, but this one went to Chuck Negron. Number 5. What Does It Take to Win Your Love? Junior Walker and the All-Stars. Released April 25th, 1969. This is another R&B crossover hit that was released in April, and it went on to number 5 on July 30th, continuing to chart and peak at number 4 in August. The most memorable part of this song is the extended sax intro and the lead vocal punctuated with sax fills, both of them done by Junior Walker. Berry Gordy, the owner of Motown, was known for picking hits by committee, holding a weekly meeting to review and evaluate recordings, resulting in an initial rejection by that quality control committee for this particular song. But it's a glaring example of one that he missed. The selection for the single instead was an entry named Home Cooking, and it was selected over the objections of Junior Walker. Sure enough, Home Cookin' only made it to number 42, and What Does It Take was then hastily released as an A-side, and it proved to be the right choice. In the 80s, Junior Walker ended up recording and performing with, of all acts, the rock band Foreigner, and you can hear his solo work with them on their track, Urgent. Number 4, Crystal Blue Persuasion, Tommy James and the Shondells. Released June 1969. The psychedelic interpretations of this recording are right out of the 1960s playbook, but they're varied and bewildering, even those from Tommy himself. Accounts of the origins of the background for the lyrics range from, according to Tommy James in a video interview, reading a poem named Crystal Persuasion given to him by a fan, referencing the book of Revelations in the Christian Bible, or, according to Tommy James in a transcribed interview, it came to him while reading chapter 19 of the book of Revelations, where a lake of crystal is referenced, or his manager said that it came to Tommy from the book of Ezekiel, and then there was the expected inference by the public at large regarding the origin being recreational pharmaceuticals. But no matter what the origin, the song achieved a meteoric rise in the chart, being released in June and charting at number 4 by July 20th. And then it went to number 2 in August, behind Zerger Evans' hit in the year 2525. Number 3, Good Morning Starshine. Oliver, released May of 1969. This was an international top 10 hit for American singer William Oliver Swafford, known professionally as Oliver. He lifted it from the second act of the period Broadway play Hair and adapted it himself for the single. I personally could never figure out what it was supposed to be about, but it had a definite happy sound to it. And it still does. Oliver achieved instant celebrity status with the recording and had another hit with Gene in 1969, but he couldn't sustain the momentum, and he ended up with little subsequent success, leaving the music industry altogether in 1984. Number 2, Spinning Wheel, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, released May of 1969. Written by the group's lead singer at the time, David Clayton Thomas, Spinning Wheel was not only number 2 on July 20th, it was number 2 for 3 weeks. The crazy ad-lib ending based upon the 1815 Austrian song Ach du lieber Augustin was, according to the tune's producer, James William Gerso, added at the last minute due to the actual end of the song on the master tape being accidentally recorded over. I'll bet the following day's production meeting was a bit rough on that detail.
That wasn't too good.
And now, number 1. In the year 2525, Exordium and Terminus, Zerger and Evans, first released locally in mid-1968 on the Truth label and released internationally in June 69 on RCA. The song itself was an expression of chronophobia, that is, the fear of the future.
You think, do, and say is in the pill you took today.
Describing a human existence progressively dominated by technology. And the message found identity with the rebellious 1969 youth culture. Although written in 1964, it took 4 years to get it to the studio. The guys, Nebraskans Denny Zerger and Rick Evans, along with bassist Mark Dalton and drummer Dave Trupp, contracted a recording session in a small studio on the northern outskirts of the small West Texas city of Odessa. The studio was run by Tommy Alsop, who had been a guitarist as part of the Crickets with Buddy Holly starting in 1958, and famously lost a coin toss with Ritchie Valens in the February of '59 for a seat on the Beechcraft Bonanza that crashed after takeoff, snuffing out the lives of Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and the Big Bopper. The Zerger and Evans recording session was captured on an Ampex 300 3-track recorder with orchestration overdubs written by Alsop, being supplied later by members of the Odessa Symphony and by music students from the local Permian High School. Only 1,000 copies were initially pressed on the tiny Truth record label with no distribution, so the guys literally sold copies themselves at their gigs in the latter part of 1968. Soon it became popular enough to get the attention of RCA Records, who picked it up, slightly remixing the master to suppress some of the original orchestration, and then releasing the single internationally in the June of 1969. It rose to the number 1 slot on the Billboard Hot 100 for 6 weeks from July through August, and so occupied that slot during the Apollo 11 mission. Selling over 20 million copies, it also represented the definitive one-hit wonder, as no other recording by Zerger and Evans made it anywhere near the top 40. In fact, their next best showing, Mr. Turnkey, was effectively uncharted at position 106. The duo officially disbanded in 1971, with Rick Evans having a short stint trying new recordings and eventually returning to private life. Rick Evans died in February of 2018. In 1969, Denny Zerger started his own guitar company, Zerger Guitars, incorporating design changes based upon his experience with the instruments when he was performing. He recently passed ownership of that company to his son, Dennis Jr., and is officially retired. So there it is, a look at what you would have heard on AM radio in the U.S. on July 20th, 1969. These, of course, were not the only songs being played on AM radio that day, but you are almost sure to have heard all of them if you listened for a few hours. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do me a favor and click on that like thumbs up icon. I know this list was bound to have stirred some memories, so please feel free to share your memories in a comment. You can also use comments to suggest video subject matter regarding pop music and pop music culture from the 1950s to the 1970s. A great thing that you can also do to support the channel and the Facebook page is just share the video with your friends. Click on the arrow icon and pick the destination person and help us expand the audience. Speaking of supporting the channel, this would be a great time to subscribe if you're not yet a subscriber, or if you're watching this on Facebook and not yet a follower, just start following the Facebook page. It's easy, it's free, and it lets YouTube and Facebook know that you support the channel. Just click on the follow button on Facebook or subscribe button on the YouTube channel main page, or you can click on the big purple icon that appears somewhere over here on the YouTube screen toward the end of this video, and be sure to select the top notification bell on the drop-down menu so that you will be notified whenever I post new content for the public. If you would like the opportunity to see content on YouTube a few days earlier when it is viewable only to channel members, you can upgrade your subscription and become one. Just click on the join icon after you subscribe and follow the instructions. It's not a free thing to upgrade on the YouTube channel membership, but it's as dirt cheap as YouTube would let me make it. Thanks again for watching.